Welcome gallery staff and councillors to Richmond Valley Council's ordinary meeting on the 15th of April 2025. I'll open the meeting with the acknowledgement of country. Richmond Valley Council recognises the people of the Bundjalung Nations as custodians and traditional owners of this land, and we value and appreciate the continuing culture connection to lands, their living culture and a unique role in the life of this region in the past, present and future. Mr General Manager, could you read the prayer, please?
Dear Lord, we meet to serve our Richmond Valley community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
Amen. Item 3 on our agenda is public access, and we have one request from Mr Ian Brown, who will be speaking on item 20.1. Mr Brown? That's the application, but I also said that you may be being supported by Miss Bianca Maybeer, is that correct? So if you'd like to both come up, please.
Hello, thank you for having us this evening.
Yeah, just welcome, and there is a time limit. At 4 minutes you will have a bell, and then that another minute to 5 minutes, okay? So just when you're ready, feel comfortable and away you go. Thank you.
Okay, so Ian has come today. He's a tea tree farmer from Korakai, and we're discussing flood mitigation for our township. I've put together a presentation and I just wanted to provide some context around... Amazing. Around these images. So these two images are Queen Elizabeth Drive, which is our main access road to Casino. And as you can see, these photos were taken by me. The left image is when the water started coming over the road on Sunday the 9th of March, and the right image is Wednesday the 12th of March. So in a typical major, I just wanted to add before Ian gets up here, and I'm using that word typical major because that's what we're seeing now. Haven't seen a flood below that, personally, in my adult life. We can be isolated by backwater in Korakai for more than 5 days. So you'll see on the slideshow I've put up some critical health issues, some of the detrimental impacts to our economy locally, and various other things by request of Ian. So I'll give him the floor now. He is much wiser when it comes to flood mitigation. So thank you.
Hello, my name's Ian Brown. I've lived in Korakai for 55 years and I'm a local plumber, and I'm here tonight to talk about the continual backwater flooding problem to our town and to talk about a levy bank proposal to fix 95% of the town's flooding issues. In my opinion, a levy bank that should go from the council-owned Peterson Quarry driveway across the swamp towards the NBN tower on Henderson Street, a distance of approximately 850 to 900 metres long and 3 to 4 metres high, with an auger or axi-flow pump and a floodgate if needed. This would be designed by engineers and hydrologists. The council could build the levy out of a product called overburden, which there is over 1 million tonnes out at the quarry already, and only needing 40 to 50,000 tonnes to be trucked straight out the front gate and across the swamp. So transport and material costs would be at the lowest end of the cost scale. It could be capped with dirt and grassed over to allow cattle to graze on it when it's completed. This levy bank would stop all the backwater from entering the town and flooding the sewers in Grenfell, Martin and Orwood Street, which then becomes a potential health issue for council. It would also benefit council in the long run by not having to employ contractors to do curbside pickups of destroyed goods from residents' garages and backyards which have been flooded. It may also encourage more investment to the town, as people would know that they were not going to be flooded by every river rise or a 1 in 2 year flood. I know you cannot mitigate for a 2022 or a 1 in 1,000 year flood, but you can mitigate for every flood smaller than that, which would be about 95% of them. I did speak to the head of engineering of the CSIRO after the 2022 floods, and relayed my proposal and other forms of mitigation that were out of town. As we await the flood mitigation paper due out later in July from the CSIRO, my question to Council is, if Corriquai receives a non-favourable outcome because of other parts of the Northern Rivers receive the bulk of the money, what is the Council going to do for our community to stop the backwater continually flooding the lower part of town? To me, it's a relatively easy fix. It just needs Council, Rouse County Council and politicians to have the political will to do some important infrastructure work for our community. I urge Council to make this a #1 priority to stop the continual flooding from backwater. The second part of the flood prevention is to do with the Corriquai Town Drain, which is a Rouse County Council asset that passes under council roads. It starts at the Richmond Valley Council depot and runs down and around in front of the Pod Village and out to the river under the Corriquai Woodburn Road. This drain is Corriquai's main drain to the river, having Adam, Grenfell, Orwood and Meadow Streets, Richmond Terrace and Martin Street, all running underneath Queen Elizabeth Drive and into the drain, plus 2/3 of Corriquai's Hill empties into it as well. The first half of the drain from the council depot to Union Street is 300 mil lower than the pipe under the road. That means 300 mil of water continually lying in the drain 24/7. The pipe needs to be removed and drain dug to grade the sewer, to grade the water, can run out to the river and a box culvert reinstalled. The second half of the drain has 2 choke points. The first one is at the Farmers Crossing 100 metres from the road, and the second choke point is the pipe under the road itself. The first choke point needs to be replaced with bigger pipes, more pipes or a box culvert. The second choke point is the pipe under the road, which is 1 metre in diameter and in my opinion undersized. It is draining 300 plus hectares of water. It needs to be replaced with a bigger box culvert and a new floodgate installed on this culvert. The pipe under the road enters the river 50 mil higher than high tide, so when the river rises 1 to 1.5 metres, the floodgate closes off, preventing stormwater from getting into the river. When rain keeps falling and the gate is closed off, water then backs up into all the lower drains in town, potentially flooding sewers and under houses. I propose a pump be installed on the drain near the road, so when the gate is closed off, the drain can be emptied of rainwater, reducing stormwater flooding. This pump could be an AxiFlow pump, auger pump or a China pump. Whatever hydraulics decide will work best. I urge Council once again to make this a #1 priority for our town's backwater and stormwater flooding issues. These 2 pieces of infrastructure are a must to protect our community from future flooding events, as they are predicted to become more frequent in this climate change era. So my question to Council once more is, if Corriquai receives a non-favourable outcome from the CSIRO, what will the Council do for our community to stop the backwater continually flooding the lower parts of town? Thank you.
Thank you. Just before you go, will you take questions if you have any? Yep. Is there any questions of Mr Brown? Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, Ian, look, thanks for the presentation. And look, I know you're a long-time resident down that way. What you've proposed, have you looked further, and in your opinion, what will it do to the water you're holding back? Where will it go to if it doesn't flow into Corriquai?
The amount of water it holds back is fairly minimal when you go up to the top of the cemetery there and look out and see how far it goes. It basically goes all the way back to Tatham, over to Rapville and Leeville, Whipparee, Rapville, Ripplree and Bunga Walbin. So, in my opinion, it wouldn't put very much water height on it at all. I spoke to a mate who lives down Lagoon Road, past there. He's got a cane farm. I suggested what I was going to do because, and he said he had a look with me across up the top there, and he said that wouldn't put 10 mil on it over that side. And I said, well, we're not talking Sydney Harbours, we're just talking nuisance stuff. Because it runs all the way behind Spring Hill and all the way up towards Tatham, behind Fleming's farm, up there. So that'd be up to hydrologists to work out. But in my opinion, it'd be very minimal.
Any other questions? Councillor Murray.
I had the same question, but thank you for coming in and sharing those insights tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending tonight. Next item is item 4, apologies, and we have one apology from Councillor Cornish. Could I get a move to accept these? Seconder?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Put that motion to all those in favour. Carried. Unanimous. Mayoral minutes, item 5, there is no mayoral minute. Confirmation of minutes over the page on page 6. Can I get a mover for that, please? The meeting on the 18th of March.
Move, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey, seconder. Councillor Humphries. Has there any councillor got any issue with the accuracy of those minutes? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? On page 7, item 7, matters arising out of the minutes. Has any councillor got any matters arising? We'll move on. Item 8, declaration of interest. Mr General Manager, have you received any declarations of interest?
Yes, I have. So the first one is Councillor Sandra Humphries in the matter of item 19.1, key Richmond Valley events update. Councillor Humphries has identified a pecuniary interest as she's a performer in the cow muster, and also a non-pecuniary as a volunteer for the same event. And the other declaration is from myself, Vaughan McDonald, relating to item 22.3, which is the General Manager's annual performance review, and I identified that as a pecuniary, as that is a performance matter and relates to salary and pecuniary, and so I will leave the meeting for that item.
Any other councillors?
Mr Mayor, could I ask a question
Yes,
through you to the
Councillor
General
Humphries.
Manager? Mr General Manager, the 19.1 being a matter for information, if that's brought up and spoken about, will I be required to leave the room just so that I know? Thank you.
Look, it's a decision being, there's no decision being made, it's for review and noting, but if there is discussion on that matter, that's a choice for you, as it's up to councillors to manage their conflicts of interest. So if you feel that there may be a conflict, I'd suggest you intervene and say you're going to leave the room. That's, as I say, conflicts of interest are something for you to manage, but that's how I'd handle that.
Thank you.
No other declarations? Petitions? No petitions. We'll move over now to page 8. Notice of motion. I'll move that being my notice of motion.
Second, Mr.
Councillor Morrissey. Councillors, as you know, every year we have some visitors for a couple of months, and it does become controversial in our community. I get a lot of questions, and since they've been have departed, I've had some more of what's council going to do in the future. So I thought I would put this notice of motion up and get some answers where we're up to, and the lessons learned and how we're going to manage it in the future. So it's just straightforward asking for a report to come back where we're going in the future. So, is there any other speakers? I don't need a right or reply, so I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Page 9, I'll move that, the mayoral's report.
I'll second, Mr Mayor.
Any questions? None, I'll put that.
Yeah,
Councillor Hayes.
Just a quick one, and your first one there, the 12th, the Minister for Regional Transport and Minister for Planning in Woodburn.
Yes.
What was that meeting about and what was discussed? If you can tell us.
Yeah.
And also, I'll keep going down the bottom there in April on the 8th, we had a meeting with the Reconstruction Authority. Just a rundown on what you think will come out of that. If it's, I know it was a confidential meeting, but if you can just give us a general opinion on what you think will come out of that meeting.
The first one, that was with Councillor Atkinson, and also Minister Scully. That was during around the time of Alfred, and we got a lot of political visitors. We actually met at the SES and then went around to the main street, and we told them all the issues that Richmond Valley has and highlighted a lot in Woodburn, and mainly let them know what we need, what we desire, what is necessary, about the roads, especially council one day getting back the old Pacific Highway, and why we need funding for that to improve the streetscape in Broadwater and also the plans we've got for Woodburn. Yeah, that was mainly, and the Minister of Planning, we raised some issues with him with housing up here and across the area, and also the regional job precinct. And that was beneficial because not long after that it was signed. So, yeah, so it was just an overall visit, and they let us area, and we definitely let them know what we wanted. The other one was ex-Cyclone Alfred. It was those meetings specifically on the cyclone, Alfred, and...
I asked about the bottom one.
Oh, sorry, which one?
Second one from the bottom on the 8th of April, the Reconstruction Authority meeting we had here. Which, they come here and met us.
Oh, yeah. So, what...
Just wondering what the outcome of that meeting, how you feel, if they listened, and what might come out of it.
I think it was a positive meeting. You were a part of that, all the councillors were. I thought it was positive. I think they're starting to really, I'd say in the last 5 months, the Reconstruction Authority started to deliver, and I can't put the word. I think before they were in a bit of flux. They were just, but now they've got a way forward and understand what needs to be done in the region. And I think we're in a good position from them. The money is flowing. There's still more to come. But yeah, I think we sometimes think that other areas are getting more money of them, and sometimes they are. But they've got a just cause why they're doing it. Like the sewerage in Lismore, I made that point that time. They got a lot of money out of the sewer, but just remember, but remember a lot of that, they had a licence that raw sewage could go in the river, and you know where that's going. It's going down to Coracai, Woodburn, and so on. So I supported that funding for our lower river community because that needed to be fixed. And that stopped through that funding, and there's more work to be done. So you've got to actually be able to say what the money's for. They just don't walk into each council and say, here's so much, here much. You've got to actually fill out there. And we've put all our $100 million for roadworks and things like that. But if the General Manager wants to make some comments on our funding future, I think at last we're going somewhere.
Oh, look, I think we'll be continuing to advocate hard for our communities. I think it was good that they were here. I think the other thing that they committed to was they're happy to come back on a more regular basis. So I think we definitely should take that opportunity to do that. I know they're also looking to plan the pop-ups that they referred to during May, which I understand will be happening in Woodburn. So we'll be making sure that we promote that to our community so that they can take the opportunity to meet with the Reconstruction Authority staff face to face, and they'll have other support programs with them. So look, I think we just need to keep the pressure on, but also understand the gravity of what they're dealing with.
I might ask you, what was your take on it?
Well, I'm glad you spoke about the sewer and the money going to Lismore for the sewer and how it affects us. And that's good to get that point out. Vaughan's point about the meetings they're going to have regularly with us, probably quarterly, it's looking like. That's great. The other thing is they've promised they're going to have a pop-up in Woodburn. They're talking about the 14th of May, and at that meeting we asked them to make sure that was arranged so that the time frame is not in the middle of in business hours, so that people can attend that work. I think that was some of the good to come out of it, but I've probably got a different opinion on the overall outcome of where they're heading with it. That'd be the only difference, and I think that might come out in a later part of the meeting. So I'll save that.
Any other questions?
Yes, I've got a couple of questions. Just if you could share with the community some details around the ex-Cyclone Alfred recovery update with the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority on the 24th of March. The 26th of March, the discussion with Richard Williamson and Minister Paul Scully, and also the meeting on the 1st of April with the Regional Recovery Coordinator and Director of Regional Recovery.
And I've got the 24th and the
Yep,
1st.
26th.
And what was the other one?
24th of March, 26th of March,
Yep, okay.
and the 1st of April.
Yep. So the 24th, these were, they're regular. They just give us updates of what they're up to. And on that date, I can't remember what was said at that meeting at all, because we have them regularly. But it's mainly each department gives us an update of where they're going to. Sometimes they're very beneficial meetings. Other times it's just information of standard stuff. You know, they got like there'll be funding available for this and that. You know, things like that. But the other one for the Paul Scully, that was just a meeting about the regional job precinct. He had signed it, and I was in Sydney for the country mayors, so I went to thank him and have a bit of a talk to him about that. I did mention about flood-prone properties. When are they going to come out to government and actually give some guidance to councils, what can be done on those areas and what can't be? But it was very short. It was about a 10-minute drop-in. And the other one on the 1st, that was with Mr. Scott Tanner, and he came here to council, and he was visiting all councils in his job, and I believe today he met with some cane farms and soya growers down the Lower River in our council area. He just was a check-up to find out where we're up to, what we need, gave us some updates about what they're up to in the area, in the whole area. A lot of the industries, rural industries, he talked about that, especially a lot of macadamia farmers. We've just let him know our roads and what infrastructure was damaged in our area. And yeah.
I guess just to elaborate on the 24th of March with the Reconstruction Authority, so there was no discussion of like commitment of funding that's coming up?
No. All they are is updates of where they're up to in the whole area, because you've got to remember they've got all the other mayors in the rooms and other organisations and that, so they just give you a broad of what's happening in the region. If they wanted to mention funding, they would come or send a letter or email or would have said something the other day. It wasn't a one-on-one meeting with them.
Okay. Are we able to get some details on these meetings so we can, like, for transparency with the community, some notes? Is that possible?
I'll see what they want to send out.
Okay.
And release that.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. And I don't believe with Scott Tanner there was, Superintendent Scott Tanner, there was minutes taken. He wrote a lot of things down. It was just, yeah. Anything else? I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Over the page to delegates' reports. There's no delegates' reports. Matters determined without debate. Has any councillor?
14.3.
Any other? All right, I'll call 14.1. I believe that's a planning issue. I'll call 15.1 because there has to be a nomination, and also call 17.1 because there also has to be an opportunity for someone to nominate for that. Any others? So councillors, I believe we need a motion for 14.2 and 17.2. Is that correct? Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Morrissey, and a seconder. Councillor Hayes, your light's on. You're seconding? Yeah? I need a seconder for item 14.2 and 17.2.
Second.
Councillor Humphries. I'll put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Councillors, I'll move 14.1 on page 11. I'll get a seconder, please.
Second.
Councillor Humphries. Councillor, this is straightforward. As I said, we spoke at last year, I believe it was. General Manager and I went to Sydney, talked to Minister Scully. We then spoke to him in Woodburn, and after that, as I said, it's been signed. It's a great way forward for our whole Richmond Valley. And I noticed that the other day the Narrabri one's getting very close to be done. So out of this, there's still some alterations to our DCP. When do you expect those to be, some amendments for that, Mr. General Manager? To
Look,
occur?
I'd need to check specifically with our strategic planning team on that one, and come back to you with a timeframe. There's the opportunity also whether there's other adjustments that we would like to make to our development control plan. So I'd envisage that's an item that we will bring, brief you on early in the next financial year. We're obviously focused at the moment on getting our community strategic plan and other documents in hand, but it is important that the development control plan follows soon after, so that we can maximise the benefit of those changes to the LEP and continue to identify ways we can make it easier for people to do development and grow their business in the Richmond Valley.
Any other speakers? Councillor Hayes.
Was there a seconder? Oh,
Yeah.
So you're right, okay. Just a couple of things. I went and opened up the regional job precinct, the master plan, and it still refers to energy from waste in there. When will that be changed and taken out of there? It's still in there.
I'd need to check that. I hadn't spotted that. I know that it was to refer to alternate waste treatment solutions, which is basically recycling, and so that was the terminology that was to be used. If that is in there, we'll need to ask some questions about that, because we've obviously made a submission to the EPA in line with the resolution that was made at the March meeting. So
I only read
I
it
will
quickly,
follow up
so
on that.
I'm sure it's in there, but yeah, check it.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out, because, and whether that was a result of the fact that, it is still in the regulation as at today, because obviously the EPA are going through a process that they will be changing that. But my recollection of the understanding was that the draft master plan had it removed, so I'd need to check that, and we can go back to planning and ask some questions if that is the case.
And the land's on the market, isn't it, out at Reynolds Road? We're trying to sell it. How do you know what zoning you're buying when they haven't decided what zonings are going where yet? Like the industrial zonings, the E5, E4, E3 components of those lands, they're saying they're going to include them in there, but it doesn't actually say where.
Well, the land at Reynolds Road is already industrial land.
Yeah.
That's the council land that is on the market at Reynolds Road was already industrial land.
Yeah.
There are some adjustments to some of the land holdings along that corridor.
So is it all E5 out there, is it? For heavy industrial, or is it the next one back E4, or is it a combination, or because it talks about only E4 and E3 in the subdivision on.
I think our reference for the Reynolds Road lots is an IN1. So, look, I'd need to just
Yeah,
get out.
I read it and I couldn't work out what parts of it were for heavy industrial and the next level down. And if you're buying land, you probably need to know that. And I'm assuming it'll be addressed when they do the LEP, but it probably, the horse before the cart kind of thing. Yeah.
There should be. I've seen maps that have it mapped, and I thought they're mapped in the master plan.
Yeah, okay, I didn't go that far.
Yeah.
So it could be.
Yeah,
It could be,
I'll need to just pull out those maps, make sure and I'll be happy to. Well, I think it's a good point. If you're not sure exactly where they're at, we need to get those maps visible and available on our website, so that people who are looking to invest know exactly what the parameters are. And that's some of the next steps that we need to do, is to get the communications out so that it's clear what this means.
Thank you, that's all.
Councillor Humphrey, did you have your light on previously? Oh, Councillor Murray.
Thanks, you, Mr. Mayor. I do have just, this is full disclosure, completely outside of my area of expertise, but having read through the report, I do have five or six questions. Firstly, what is the real estate reserve?
Mr General Manager.
Do you want to explain that, Director Gator?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have, in our financials, we have restricted and unrestricted reserves. Restricted reserves are reserves that we raise money for a specific thing, and it goes into a reserve like for water sewer, and that's all we'll use that money for. The real estate reserve is an unrestricted reserve, so we can actually use that money for anything, but we actually put it aside for real estate transactions. So if we do any land sales or get fees for certain things, they'll go into that reserve, and then we can buy land to either develop or for community land or anything.
Thank you. And there's a second part to that. I think you've probably answered half of it, but where does that income come from? Where does the income come from that feeds into that account? Obviously, real estate transactions, but is there any other revenue stream coming into that fund?
It's mainly through real estate transactions. There is money from memory from our. No, it's not. They're actually separate as well. I think it is mainly just from the real estate transactions from memory. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got four more. Sorry.
I'll just, you can borrow from other reserves and bolster one up, and then that reserve pays back where it come from to. Okay, back to the other reserve.
Sorry.
Sorry?
Sorry. So you could borrow from, for example.
You can, those unrestricted reserves, it can be used for anything, but we have it in certain reserves. But if you wanted to do something and you want enough money in the reserve, you can borrow from another reserve. But good accountancy is sooner or later you try to pay that back to them. Yep.
Thank you for that explanation for the new councillor in the room. I think the complimentary concierge service is a really great asset to have in our council team. I just have a question around making sure, or what parameters are in place to assure that there's not the appearance to create or a conflict of interest when advising developers on site selection within the regional jobs precinct, while also acting as the consent authority for development approvals. So we've got the concierge, as I understand it, coming in to help find suitable land for new businesses to come into the regional jobs precinct. And please correct me if I've interpreted the report wrong. I'm just asking about how we manage that conflict of interest internally.
Mr General Manager.
So a development concierge is not spotting land opportunities and investment opportunities for people who might want to invest. The development concierge is there to provide advice for people to navigate our New South Wales planning system. So the aim is to point them in the right direction, whether it be what forms to fill out, how to use the planning portal, what parts of the DCP to look at. The balance there is that we aim to be very supportive, but at times they have to manage to not give planning advice. There are planners out there that need to do that work, but it depends. If you point someone in the right direction, they can go, right, I can read the DCP, yep, that's clear, and they can move forward and make decisions. So the development concierge is there to support people, to point them in the right direction, to give information, to not and to not give advice. That's the balance they have to navigate. But if someone's looking to come to our area and invest, they're encouraged to talk with our Invest and Live team, who will give them, again, information about, if they're looking for a certain size of land, they will give them information about what's available. Again, it's giving them information, it's not giving them advice. That's, I suppose, the distinction in those roles. We do, those teams do work together. We also offer free pre-lodgement meetings, and those pre-lodgement meetings will often have the development concierge, but also someone from our Invest and Live team, along with a number of other disciplines that support development applications and what goes, the technical aspects of that.
Great, thank you for that. And you've answered my next question. My final one is, I think 1,900 jobs for our region is a fantastic outcome for the future of the region. My question is around where are they going to live, as we're in a housing crisis, and I understand there's some land estate that is in the pipeline, but what measurements are we putting in place to make sure the infrastructure and housing is growing at the same pace? Is there any thinking and strategy around that?
Absolutely, they need to go together, and that's why we are working hard on supporting a motivated developer in Summerland Estate. We've got a number of land holdings around, especially in the casino area, that aren't as motivated. And so we've got someone who's recently purchased land in that area. They're in a partnership with an experienced developer. So we've been supporting them. It's not to say that we won't support others. If there's others who are keen to move forward on theirs, the door is open. But that's the aim, is to move forward with that. Obviously, part of that is our aim is to secure supporting funding. That site's been identified in the Resilient Land Strategy, which is a Reconstruction Authority initiative. But you're absolutely right. 1,900 jobs. Where are those people going to live? They're new jobs, so we need, and the potential is there for Summerland Estate. 1,500 lots, and I know, there are people in the community go, that's a lot of lots. That's growth. That's beyond anything that casino has experienced, and that is absolutely correct. But if this region is to grow, this is flood-safe land. It's going to be more affordable than anything closer to the coast, and so we're advocating hard with government to secure funding to enable that project to happen. For it to be viable for a private developer, it needs some support with connecting infrastructure. So the aim being secure funding for that. They get on with the development. We've got new houses coming out there to support the industry growth, and obviously the other big factor or project that we have is the need for a new sewage treatment plant in Casino. Current one's beyond its use-by date at over 90 years, but these items are very expensive and and a sewage treatment plant's pretty much doubled in the last couple of years in cost, if not a bit more. So there's some big challenges there, and we need support of government. We're a council of this size. We don't have the borrowing capacity to borrow 60 to 80 million for an STP. So there's some of the challenges that we're faced with. But I think the platform is there, but absolutely it's a challenge for us to secure that support so we can unlock those houses and industry at the casino end of the valley to support the RJP.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Hayes,
Mr Mayor, am I allowed to speak again on this subject?
is it a question?
No, it's a statement out of the master plan. I've just pulled it up on the energy from waste. So what's written in there? I'd just like to read it out.
If it's information back to the General Manager, that's fine.
Thank you. It says here the Namona sub-precinct is one of 4 sites in New South Wales identified in the protection of the environment operations. Thermal energy from waste is written there. It's Regulation 2022 as possible sites for investigation of energy from waste initiatives. There are no energy from waste alternate waste treatment solutions proposals in the Namuna sub-precinct at the time of preparation of the master plan. For this reason, the Richmond Valley Precinct Master Plan does not propose a specific site for energy from waste or alternate waste treatment systems. In the Namuna sub-precinct, energy from waste and the waste treatment systems remains a permitted use at Namuna in accordance with New South Wales state legislation and may be the subject of further investigation by council in the future. Was that the piece we were supposed to remove? It's on page 30.
You want pay? Yeah. No, look,
Page 30.
my understanding it was to be removed. I mean, it is technically correct,
Yep.
right? Because the law hasn't changed.
Yeah, okay.
Because the EPA has an options paper out which says remove Richmond Valley, which we have obviously made a council resolution, and that submission has gone in to that effect. So my expectation is that that will be removed from the regulation. Everything is lining up in that direction. But my understanding was that section was going to be... What page number is it on?
Page 30, 5.4.
Okay, we'll have a look at it, and we'll need to go back to the Department of Planning and get that clarified, removed.
From what I recall, when council moved that it be the motion to be removed, that was out for public consultation, and that was their proposal. So I'd say when that's readopted by the EPA, that will be removed then, I would think. Well, I would hope. Any others? Councillor Humphries.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks for being patient.
No, that's perfectly fine. As like many councils' programs, they are linked together and they're integral to each other for each other's success. And I guess this regional jobs precinct is like that with the needing for the housing. I would just like to comment that this is certainly a brilliant, successful story for the Richmond Valley, and I believe that council is worthy of the highest praise for the success of this project. In the first instance, being chosen to participate in the process, recognised as 1 in 4 regional New South Wales areas to establish an RJP. And I offer kudos given the fact that the RJP process began 4 years ago. This being testament to council's foresight in recognising casinos' potential as an industry hub and the need for more employment opportunities for the valley. With its finger on the pulse, council seized the opportunity and accepted the challenge on behalf of the community, working diligently with the New South Wales Government, fully committed to the success of this project. And to now have the master plan approved, Richmond Valley is most definitely open for business. This project, I believe, will go down as one of council's most progressive and successful ever. And I look forward to the report to council on the proposed amendments to council's DCP to support the RJP master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? I'll use my right of reply then. Councillors, just 2 things there. I think Councillor Humphries is correct. This is a pretty big ticket item for Richmond Valley, but also for our region up the north. Like if you look where these are spread across the state, this is a big thing for up, and we're just a very lucky council. We shouldn't say lucky. I know we've done some work, and I remember it down near Grafton. I can't think of the little suburb there where we were that day.
Townsend.
When John Barilaro made the announcement, and it was really, really good. And as you said, it's a long time ago. It's been a fair while coming, but it's here, and we move on, get the DCP amended, and I believe that things will start to progress. As far as the housing and the 1,900 jobs, that's not going to happen in 3, 4, 5 years. It's a process over the next 15, 20 years to get our area to grow. And once we grow, we'll get a lot of more services. Otherwise, if you just stay stagnant, you can lose services, and the town just stays the same or dies. So I can tell you there's a lot of other councils would like to be in the position that we are now. And just to finish off, Councillor Murray mentioned about the free development concierge. When I was in that meeting with Minister Scully, he had some papers. Now, I don't know how it got around to it, but he had some papers on his desk and it come about the DAs, and I said, oh, well, we're under 50 days. And he said, I haven't seen you on the naughty list. He said, but that's the list there. And he said, and I've heard since then there's some councillors actually getting some letters, explain why. So, and I told him about the free concierge and he just said, that's unbelievable. He said, that's mostly why you where you are. So I think that's, I was at a meeting the other day with 5 other councils and there was another minister and he brought that up and I said to him that about our time and the free concierge and they've gone, a free concierge? They didn't have anything like that, you know. So I think that is a big winner for us. So, that closes debate. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. 14.2 is gone. Councillor Hayes, 14.3 on page 22.
Okay, I'd like to move the recommendation, but I want to add a dot point 2. The dot point 2 I want to add is that representatives of the Richmond Valley Council firmly reiterate at every opportunity when they engage with the RA that the community of Woodburn would prefer house raises with structural improvements to their existing properties and not buybacks unless they are absolutely necessary so they can remain where they live. Julie's got a copy of that.
I'll just ask the...
Can I ask a question? A procedural question. Is this a foreshadowed motion? Because we're changing the original.
No, he's adding to it.
Okay.
We can You right with that, Robert?
Happy to
I
move-
need
happy to
I need a seconder, please. I'll second it. Councillor Hayes.
I've prepared something here, but I was thinking when I come in tonight, like I'm starting to feel as though I'm representing Woodburn and not the rest of the Lower River in these issues, but I haven't had time to speak to people from Broadwater and Corrickoi, and I don't want to put them out there if I haven't spoken to them. So I have spoken to people in Woodburn, a lot of people. So follow on, so after our meeting with the RA last Tuesday evening, I got the impression that their funding arrangement with the Australian government had a clause in it to remove as many houses from the floodplain as possible. I got the impression that they will progress buybacks at all costs, no matter what the overall individual circumstances were to each town, including all villages in the Lower River area. So I have included all villages. My view was further evidenced when only 2 days after this meeting, representatives of the RA were revisiting property owners who had refused buybacks in the first round but had asked for house raising, encouraging them to reapply for a buyback as they will not be getting a lift. This is completely against the extensive and valuable community feedback that has been communicated to Richmond Valley Council from the Woodburn community.
Councillor, I have a bit of a problem sometimes, even though I've supported in the past, I'm speaking in the seconder, but I noticed that there you say that they can be buybacks if they're urgently, because I know of people in Woodburn who have taken buybacks. They're aged, and I won't say their names, but you must really know, male and females, because I couldn't support them not being available to have buybacks when every other community in our area has them and having to live when the river comes up in fear. So I believe that really needs to be in there for people to be given the opportunity as everyone else in our region. Before that wasn't there, I believe it needs to stay there, that if a person really wants to get out of it, and I know people who really done it tough through Cyclone Alfred because they thought they were going to have another 2022. And I don't want people living like that. So that being there, I believe that opportunity should still be for Woodburn people if they feel they need to get out. Councillor.
Mr Mayor, I can't support that second point because of the wording of it, not the sentiment, but that implies that we know what the entire community of Woodburn believes 100%, and we don't. And it does take away that option for those that do want to have buyback, and I think it's the wrong wording to meet the intent of what's being put there, because you can't support that motion as it reads because it does take away the options of buyback, and it presumes that the entire community of Woodburn has a view, and I don't know that.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Murray.
I support the original motion, but I agree with you, Mr Mayor. I think there's cases where there could be vulnerable residents or vulnerable community members that may need a buyback or may be going through the process of a buyback because they really are in a position where they need to. So I supported the original motion, but unless Councillor Hayes would accept a slight amendment, which would be that the buyback is still an option for people who are in vulnerable positions. I think taking it off the table completely is a risk to some members in the community that would need really need a buyback, I guess, if they get it. I mean, there's only 40% left of the funding, so it's a conflicting one because I really support keeping our villages together and keeping our housing stock on the river, but I'm also conscious of not eliminating or putting additional pressure on people that are in really, really vulnerable positions.
Councillor Humphries.
Mr Mayor, would it work, I do agree with Councillor Walker, would it work if it was something like those who have previously stated their preference?
It's not
because I agree, they do, we can't know. I was going to ask, what did we find in the place plans? And I know that comment came through, but it wouldn't have been 100%. I wouldn't think that people wanted to stay or people wanted to leave. Or
Can I make a comment just before we go on? I'm happy to change it,
Yep.
as long as we get the content of it, so it means the same thing. Since in the last few months, and the way the RA have gone about dealing with the people and communicating with the people and, well, not communicating with the people in these villages, they're starting to think, well, we're not going to get a house lift, we're not going to get a retrofit, we better take a buyback. We better revisit and take a buyback. So they've basically twisted it around so they have to change their mind, which, I don't know if we can change that. But like you said, the opportunity for people to take a buyback, needs to be in there. But the main content of the motion is to make sure that they explore every other avenue that's available to those people, because they're thinking they're not getting a house lift, and they're no chance of getting a house lift, and they're no chance of getting any resilience money. Okay, so, well, let's go back and take a buyback. If we're in the list, let's go for it. I don't think that's the result the town wants. And I agree with John Walker's bloody comment about the, sorry, I shouldn't have swore, about the, the intent, to keep the intent there. But yeah, some people probably do need buybacks and do want to get out of Woodburn. Yeah.
So have you got any changes we could make to make it more mature motion?
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, I could live with something that says, except that thing's just got in the way, that the council believes that the majority of the community of Woodburn would prefer. Something in that order, that the council believes that the majority of the people of Woodburn would prefer, and it still leaves the opening at the end there for buybacks. So, if it was moved to something in that order, I could support it.
So we can get on the second line there and change that the majority of the community of Woodburn.
The council believes that the majority.
Council believes, yeah.
I still don't know for sure they do.
Well, that's something you're going to have to, yeah.
Is it believes, or is it the understanding? Yeah?
Council
Yeah.
understands. Just a comment. I think your intent, Councillor Hayes, is that they are funded house raises. Is that your intent? Because if you don't have anything in that about funding under the Resilient Homes program or the Resilient Lands program, I think if you use the word funded house raises with structural improvements, because I think if you leave funded out, they can say, well, use the planning system to raise your house, off you go. Something about it, it's not quite... Oh, I don't know. No, I'm just trying to think of the buyback scenario. you know, because some people.
Councillor Hayes, is that okay?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay.
I think that gets the point across.
All right, we've had a bit of a around the table. Unless any councillor's got something urgent they'd like to add to that.
I just
Councillor Murray?
have one more thing to add. And I mean, it's really sad that we're over 3 years on now and we're sitting here begging for promised grants. But in reality, there have been 9 approvals for house raises and retro refits. Is this going to have a positive impact on that outcome?
All right, I'm going to go for right of reply. Councillor Hayes.
Look, I think that dot point 2 now gets the feeling of the people in Woodburn to the forefront, and if we can go into and follow through with it, I think it needs to be there. So I get an opportunity to close, don't I?
Yeah, you're closing now.
I'm closing?
Yeah,
You're done?
now you-
Okay, thank you. Yep. I wasn't sure where you were going
Yeah.
with it. Okay. So look, soon after the devastating 22 floods, council was supportive of potential of buyback provisions, all right? Further community consultation has led us to the fact that these buybacks continue in Woodburn. The future of the village is at risk. All right? People that have received buybacks have largely only been able to afford to relocate to different location on the floodplain. The buyback program is not ideal for Woodburn, and the council should be further supporting the Woodburn community through this. So, thank you.
Close the debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page to 15.1. I'll move that recommendation as I called it. Any other? Can I get a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Humphries. Councillors, this report is pretty straightforward. It's not actually a requirement, but it's preferred if we do have a flood risk management committee. And going forward, I think that would be a good thing. I would say that whoever gets the job or is appointed, if there is any interest from a councillor view, it is for the whole council area, right through the floodplain, not just focused on one area. So, is any other council? Oh, it's second to Councillor Humphries. Did you want to speak?
No, thank you.
Is there any council would like to speak? Councillor Walker.
Mr Mayor, I support the recommendation, but I think that the restriction of a council representative to one is too narrow. It is important. I think council should have a bigger voice, and covering your point, there are different views in different parts of the local government area. Is there any reason why it couldn't be 2 representatives rather than 1?
Mr General Manager, anything in the guidelines to say why it cannot be 2?
That just before, that was a comment I was going to make too. Yeah.
So I'm just checking the terms of reference. I
thank
think
you.
it's...
Just give us a minute.
Yeah, I think from memory it's silent on it. Terms of reference is on page 20 of the attachments if you wanted to have a look.
I think, Mr Mayor, if you look at Lismore, for example, their flood management committee has multiple numbers of councillors on it. I wouldn't support that, but I think we do need 2.
Look, the terms of reference is written in the singular, but it's a guideline. At the end of the day, we're following a guideline here. If it's something as a council that you feel you want to have more than 1 representative, I don't see it as a major issue, and you know, I think we've got a long valley, so if we had representation across that.
All right,
So I think my view is we can work with that desire to have more than one.
so we need to change 3. Nominate a councillor. So we nominate 2 councillors.
I mean, if you move this resolution, you could say nominates council or representative / S.
Okay.
Nominates councillor,
Councillors, representative.
representative
Okay.
/ S to be members of the FRM committee, and then once you make that resolution, we then move to a nomination voting scenario.
Okay. All right. Councillor Humphries, you would, agree with that? Is there any other debate or comments? Councillor Murray.
I'm really supportive of this. I think the feedback we get frequently, well, I certainly get frequently, is that local knowledge isn't having a genuine voice at the table, and I think by having the community representatives in this forum will help bridge that gap that is the feedback that I'm getting quite frequently. So really supportive of this committee.
Thank you. Any other speakers? I don't need to write a reply. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Mr General Manager, would you like to take any nominations, please?
Yes, so is any councillors wanting to nominate to be on the Floodplain Risk Management Committee?
Yeah, just nominate if you want. Someone
Mr
gonna
Mayor,
push
could I
the
suggest if Councillor Hayes nominates himself, that the other representative should be one of our 2 delegates to Rouse, because of the role that Rouse plays in flood mitigation and the like, and I think it would be feasible if one
you
of
wanna
you
do it,
2 were able to take it.
There is scope in the committee to have a Rouse representative on there from Rouse Water.
That's an employee, I think.
It's an employee, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yep.
Yes, I accept nomination.
You'll do it? Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to nominate as the other one.
I'll nominate Councillor Hayes.
Looks like we've got nomination from Councillor Hayes and a nomination from Councillor Humphries.
Yep.
Do we have any other nominations? We appoint Councillor Hayes and
Thank you.
Councillor Humphries as representatives to our Floodplain Risk Management Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe we're on, there's no 16 projects in business development. There's no report on page 28. We now move to organisation services on page 27, 17.1. I call that, so I'll move it. And I'll get a seconder, please.
I'll second.
Councillor Hayes. Councillors, I believe the report from, I have that somewhere, I won't go looking for it, but it does say in there, I think, when in the last year or 2 there was 70 items that need to be addressed. It's now down to 7. I think that's a very good achievement. That's not the exact figure, but it's around that. I want to congratulate and thank those members. Mr General Manager, if you could write to them individually, please, and thank them for their input. It's a vital part of our organisation's review and audit. Other than that, I haven't really got a lot to... oh, there it is over there. Action 67 it was, in the beginning of 22, and now it's down to 7. So I notice our chairperson is back. But other than that, I think a very, very positive outcome. So is there any other... Oh, Councillor Hayes, as seconder?
No, I'm happy with the recommendation that's there.
Any other speakers? I don't need a right of reply, I'll put that motion then. So in that part of the, part 3 of the recommendation, that council reconsider the appointment of a non-voting councillor member to the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. So I'll get ask the General Manager to ask if there's any nominations, and if so, we'll appoint someone.
Yeah, so do we have any nominations? We'll do that similar to the previous one. Anyone want to nominate or be nominated?
I'll nominate councillor Walker.
I had my light on. I was going to. Well, I did nominate Councillor Walker last time, and as I said in the last meeting, I do think he's the most suitably qualified at the table, and yeah, would like to put forward that nomination.
Councillor Wall, do you accept the nomination? Is there any other nominations? Oh, sorry, that's your job.
You're the chair. I wasn't going to interrupt. Any other nominations? None? We'll appoint Councillor Walker to that role with our ARIC. So I'm sure Councillor Walker will make a positive contribution. So I look forward to it. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you for accepting the nomination. Is 17.2 called? Wasn't, was it? No. Council, that takes us now over to page 34. Matters for information. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Morrissey, and a seconder. Councillor Humphries. Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Humphries. Any councillors got any items in matters for information?
Just
Councillor
a
Hayes.
question on 19. How do you determine how much council inputs into these events and these community events?
I will leave the room because I won't know what other
Yeah,
questions
okay.
come up now that it's
Thank
been
you.
drawn out. Thank you.
I think the office is unlocked with you.
Mr Mayor, point of order. I'm not sure Councillor Humphrey should have seconded that recommendation
Yeah.
either.
I can
Thank you.
second that in place of
think about that.
Councillor Humphries, if that's...
Yeah, thank you. So I'll,
Will you withdraw your
I'll
seconder?
withdraw the yes.
Can I get a new seconder, please?
Yes, I can second that.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that was done because no one else was putting their hand up at the time. Councillor Hayes.
I just a question around how we determine how much funding council puts into these events, and how is it determined on the amount of revenue it brings in? Is it determined on the amount of population it involves, or is it just they've been done individually over time and that's just where they're sitting at the moment? Is there any rationale around how it's done?
Mr General Manager.
So you mean as far as the sponsorship is what you're referring to? So traditionally our signature events, and it has been for my time here, being Primex and Beef Week, have been the two signature events. We then have an event funding support program, which we're actually, I was only reviewing the next round of that earlier today, and that's where we fund events like the Australian Catalogue Championships and the Fishing Classic. We've also, as it was identified in our events, planning the opportunity to take on some signature events and have them supported with by council. Still have volunteer groups involved, and so the truck show is an example of that, and it's been very successful. And more recently, the Casino Country Music Muster. We've taken on that role of supporting the operations, logistics, marketing, promotion of the event with good support from volunteer committees, with that aim of filling another weekend in the calendar of events, because we know that brings people to our area. So it's about events, but it's also about economic stimulus. Look, the funding there's a funding available. We aim to, with the event funding support program, share it around. The numbers as far as Primex and Beef Week have really been at those levels for a number of years. Those events obviously welcome that contribution. They obviously provide different levels of stimulus depending on the nature of the event. But really, we say, short answer, there's signature events, Beef Week, Primex. There's events we run, Truck Show, Music Muster, and there's an event funding support program, which off the top of my head, we had about 8 applications that you will get briefed on soon as far as what the recommended outcomes for that, which has a total pool of around, combined cash and in-kind, it was around, it's around $65,000.
So just to clarify, across the board though, we have some events that we sponsor up front in their like their infancy years, and then we drop off. Is that the case across all of them or not?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, it's good to support an event that becomes successful and then becomes viable on its own. I mean, that is an aim of the event funding support program. Given the turbulence of the last few years, I'd have to say it has been a challenging space, events. So we haven't had many, well, unfortunately we've had events that have dropped off. So I think we're in a phase where we need to identify new events and grow them and encourage them, and where they do become viable themselves, then we can step back. We still support through promotions, but we might be able to reduce our in-kind or cash contribution to them.
Any other? Councillor Murray.
Thank you. I am a big believer in events as part of driving visitation as part of the tourism strategy, so it's great to see there's phenomenal events throughout the region. I just got a question around, of the events that are featured here, are all of them volunteer run like you just mentioned, or is just some volunteer and some for-profit? What's the makeup of that? And is that a criteria assessment applied when we're looking at funding these events?
Oh, look. So looking at the ones in this report, so the Music Muster, volunteer run, not for profit. Primex, privately owned. Beef Week, community volunteer run organisation. Evans Head Fishing Classic is run by a private entity, and I'm pretty sure they didn't apply this year, so the event is happening, and maybe they've made the decision that they don't need that additional support. Catalogue Championships is a volunteer, community-based organisation. Truck Show is council supported and run with a volunteer committee. So, short answer, we can make the decision to support something that's privately run if we feel that it's necessary for that event to occur, and that we get value out of the sponsorship contribution. But I'd suggest the majority tend to be community support. Things like another one, Casino Show Society. We tend to support that each year. Those sorts of volunteer committees. So it's not a specific requirement that they are a community-based organisation, but there's a high proportion of those.
And for the for-profit ones in particular, are we looking at economic impact and visitor spend and those kind of metrics? And we're, like, obviously Primex, I'm well aware of that, and I think even by knowing the brand impact and the sponsorship benefits that would come out of an investment into something like that would be far outweigh what we're putting in. But are we looking and calculating on that when we're making these decisions on investing?
Oh, look, we look at. I mean, Primex is a big event, as is Beef Week, and I'm sure any event they'd like some more support, some more cash, to make sure that they're more viable. We certainly look at that economic stimulus. We run figures after the different events about the predicted or estimated spend So we do have those figures for the different events. Look, I mean, our approach is let's get more events. We're not really looking to, we don't want to drop any of them off. You know, at times there's competition for events, and event promoters shop their event around to other areas, and so in those times we have to think about, do we match, do we chase? So, you know, it is a competitive environment, so there's a whole bunch of things we need to take into account to hang on to the ones we've got and have that sort of support through sponsorship, but also we support them in other ways through promotions, through a range of things that we can do to help them. Director Zellego, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We actually subscribe to a Commonwealth Bank app that helps us with the visitor spend, and we can isolate that down to particular events. So it sort of shows what's coming into the LGA, what's being spent by people in the LGA, within the LGA. You can do all sorts of metrics on it, and we've started to apply that to our events, but it also has other use in economic development sense. So that's something that we are just starting to do.
Thank you. And then just one last thing, like if we, I agree, I think events are critically important to growing visitation, driving job growth within the tourism sector. When is the opportunity to look at whether we're investing enough, and can we possibly look at investing more to attract these marquee events across the region? Is it the budget time? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yep. Budget time. That's the time we can look at what is the overall events budget, what has it been, and if there's a view that we need to put some more funding into that, we need to find a way to fund that, which often means trimming either levels of service or other activities. Comes down to priorities. So, answer it, it can happen. It just comes down to the priorities that council and where that investment goes.
Thank you.
Any other? I've just got page 46 about the excellent. Oh, is anyone going to raise any more on the events? No? Okay, Councillor Humphries. We're still on the item, Councillor, but not on the events. So, page 46, about the award. I'd just like to, third paragraph from the bottom, I'd just like to ask the General Manager to give us a quick how that all eventuated and to that come to fruition, because it's a pretty big, when you're talking $3.2 million in saving for, and being that Phil being used somewhere else to an advantage, I think it's a really good outcome, and I can understand why they got an award at this, because it's pretty outstanding actually.
Just revisiting in my mind the Nortons Gap Road project, which had plenty in it, and it was a bit of a journey. But when the 2020, so obviously in 21 the road cracked and shifted, but after the 2022 floods, a lot of debris came down the hillside and was across the road and basically all over the place. A technical term that. We needed to clean up the site so that we could get it ready for, and obviously decide how it was going to be fixed, get the geotechnics done. So often in that situation, because it's landslip material, you don't know exactly what type of material it is. There are restrictions under the EPA, Environmental Protection Authority, have in place about what you can do with that debris. We engaged with them and worked closely with them through a process that enabled us to basically repurpose that material, of which there was 8,000 cubic metres. So there's a series of you have to go through basically testing to make sure that the material is not contaminated, that is safe, and then suitable for the alternate purpose, which was to use on the batters of the rail trail. So obviously the rail trail formation, as it was, when it's built for trains, quite steep sides. When you have people riding bikes on it, the idea from a safety perspective is to level out the batters being the sides. And so that material was put on the sides of the trail for significant portions of it. So that reduces the cost to take it to landfill, which is that estimated cost of the 3.2 million. But it also improved, so it avoided that cost, avoided putting that into a landfill, but also then made the batters on the rail trail much safer. So it was a good joint project between Transport New South Wales and the Environment Protection Authority, which actually led to the EPA and Transport New South Wales actually did some of their own sort of videos on that project to encourage similar sorts of approaches to other other projects. But obviously there's a lot of those, there's a lot of landslips, landslides across our region and in other regions to the south. So it's become a really common problem. And if there's opportunities to reuse that material, can provide good outcomes for the community.
And all those things you mentioned, it also saves the airspace in the cell. The other one is on page 48, core statistics. Over 10,000 calls. It was a 15% increase on previous year and 14% on the previous quarter. No doubt that had something to do with Cyclone Alfred. And I'd just like to mention that 83% of the calls answered with the industry standard of 20 seconds. So I think that's an increase like that. That's a very, very good outcome for our community.
Look, calls to our call centre coincide with, and obviously, particularly since Cyclone Alfred and ongoing wet weather, we've had in excess of, I think we're getting close to 750 millimetres of rain so far this year. The amount we had in 22 was around 1,500. So we're almost only halfway. And what that means is that, when it rains every day, which it tends to be doing at the moment, the ground never dries out and we can't get out to fix everything. And so we understand levels of frustration in the community increase because, potholes increase. We've still got roads that are underwater in our southern half of the area. And all that creates activity, it creates angst, and it creates people wanting to call our team for solutions. I suppose at the moment, we're doing what we can, but it's difficult to fill potholes when they're full of water. So our team have to deal with that. I suppose message is please be patient and understanding of what we're trying to deal with. It's hard to fix roads when they're wet. But that sort of flows through to what our customer call centres have to deal with. So they do a great job in answering calls within 20 seconds. Don't think there's many, I was going to say telecommunication companies, so I've said it, that you call. Well, a lot of companies, you end up in call centres and on hold. So I think that's one of the things we're really proud of, is that we have a team that answers a call, they talk to someone, and they solve problems or take on people's concerns. So they do a really good job, and I think it's good to have this report, come quarterly, that shows what they're dealing with.
Councillor Murray?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I've just got a question. I have worked quite high up in call centres in the past, and our objective was always to decrease phone calls because of the time constraint and the productivity impact on our frontline staff. I'm just wondering if we've looked at AI, live chat, knowledge base technologies that we could integrate into the website to help manage some of those calls to lower the workload of our frontline staff?
I'll just say, speaking from my age bracket, we have a high population of elderly people that would not understand one of those words you just said. They like to ring up and they like to talk to people. Fair enough, there may be an opportunity for that for the younger ones, but we still have to accommodate that service for the elderly people.
With complete respect, Mr Mayor, I understand that, and I'm not saying let's turn off our phone number. What I'm saying is, are we looking at technologies available to us so people my age and likely younger than me are using live chat and different sources online? I barely call a company these days. I've never been into a bank in my life. So just wondering, as we're looking at trying to reduce some of the phone calls in to improve productivity, whether there's a section of calls that could possibly be answered through live chat, AI and other tools that could help connect with my generation and younger. And as we prepare for that transition as well, in time, I'm going to be your age one day, and I'd hope that our technology is moving at the same speed as we're all ageing.
Those words you just moved won't exist when you're my age. Do you want to answer that?
I absolutely agree that, where there's technology that is improving efficiency, we need to use it. My experience with live chat hasn't been great, I'll be honest. You tend to get a repeat and you go to, I haven't had a good experience with it. That's not to say that it doesn't work well in some areas. So, yeah, look, it absolutely should be something we have a look at if it can reduce or improve the service that we provide. Absolutely. What I think we need to and are working on as more of a priority is connecting what we call our CRM, so our customer requests, improving our responsiveness to CRMs and connecting them with our work order system. So we've got some improvements to make in our corporate systems to get those better integrated so that we are managing those CRMs in a more... We need to be more proactive about CRMs than, if you reactivity generally leads to inefficiency. If you're not doing it in an organised way, you can end up all over the place. So we need to get those systems improved, but that's not to say that the call centre aspects aren't important as well. So definitely something we can have a look at. We also need to be mindful of what these things cost to implement as well.
I can say there's some really great tools out there that aren't overly expensive that I use in my daily life, and I'm happy to share some of those through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager. Happy to share some of those platforms that could be worth investigating, but I think it is getting smarter and the tools are out there. And, I'd prefer to jump on a website and ask questions on a live chat environment rather than pick up the phone. And that is a generational shift. There's young kids now that are coming out of school that are scared to talk on the telephone, and that's the reality. So, yeah, I think, long term, looking at what that digital strategy looks like to make sure that our technology is shifting with the generational changes that come through. Thank you.
Councillor Walker.
Mr Mayor, I wish to take offence at the commentary around live chat being a generational matter. I think it is something that I use every week. I would have had 5 times this week alone that I've been on live chat for all things such as, banking, insurance, whatever. And so I fully support live chat, but it's not about young people. There are a lot of older people who, very frequently use it, and it's very helpful.
Thank you for that input.
Can I just respond? And I did not mean to cause any offence. I was reacting to the commentary from our Mr Mayor, and I do appreciate, I hope I'm like you, Councillor Walker, as I get older, that I'm keeping up to date with the technologies that become available to make life a little bit more efficient.
Just very quickly, those items I raised on those 2 pages, could you just pass on that council acknowledges those input by those staff that was into the award and the customer service, that we recognise their efforts, please? Just pass them on. Any other items out of matters for information? Councillor Morrissey?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Page 59, questions on now notice? 20.1. Councillor Murray, there is a recommendation on page 62.
I can
You want to move that?
Yep, I'll move that.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Hayes. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I guess to be honest, is somewhat underwhelmed with some of the responses, and wondered if there's an opportunity to change the recommendation. And I can email this through, but I'd like to ask to change the recommendation, ask Council to respond to the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority, asking for questions to be answered as they were written and all the details made available to the public for full transparency. That the responses to the questions I raised regarding the 2022 flood impact update is answered as written. So question number 1, I was asking how much in dollar value of the $5 million is being spent in the Richmond Valley from the repair to return program, not how many Harrod homes had been through the program. So the question wasn't technically answered in that particular one. How much in dollar value has been spent on the Living Lab in the Northern Rivers, the Living Lab Northern Rivers, which is currently on Google as a temporarily closed listing. So I'm just wondering why that key piece of information hasn't been published in the business paper.
Councillor, I need a recommendation. You have moved that, and it's been that recommendation has been moved by Councillor Hayes. So now you seem to be going away from your
Yeah, I'm asking if I can
motion.
change the recommendation to seek.
I don't know if it's really appropriate to be changed. You've asked for questions. They've been replied to.
But they haven't been answered.
Well, I don't know if that's the way, but if you feel you need to, change it. But I just don't know if it's appropriate. Actually, I've asked the General Manager to find out in the future if these questions or notice do actually need a recommendation.
Okay, so
future.
they haven't been answered though.
Councillor Walker?
Mr Mayor, my understanding, I think you reiterated at the last meeting when you came back with this, that questions that are answered are noted. They're not up for debate or changing. The process is they're asked in writing, the answer is given. If a council wants to move further actions, they should do so through a notice of motion at a subsequent meeting. But I don't think it's up to the procedure to allow a recommendation to be varied, is my interpretation.
I think their questions have been answered, whether they're to your liking or not. That's for the answer that
Okay,
they supply.
all right, that's fine. I will just speak to it. Okay, the responses from the New South Wales RA to our community inquiries can only be seen as gaslighting the flood-ravaged residents of the Richmond Valley and the broader Northern Rivers. The two most significant criticisms are that, first, the flood-affected people are seeking answers to very real questions every day, only to be met with the same script of replies. The second, that there is a distinct lack of meaningful community consultation on decisions that will shape their future. Further, the responses continue to be indirect and partially answered, failing to adequately address the questions posed by our flood-impacted community. Much of the information provided is nothing new. It merely echoes what we already know from the quarterly mailed reports we get. I did have a full dissection of how the responses did not answer the actual questions I raised, but instead I'm just going to use this time to give you direct feedback from a network of people who have been through the RA's response mechanism, who are flood impacted. I have had no collaboration on these words. I received it this afternoon, and I will begin in quoting. While your communication acknowledges a level of cooperation between Council and the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority, I must challenge the idea that this work is being conducted with the community. From where we stand in Woodburn and the Mid-Richmond, the community has not been meaningfully engaged, heard or informed. And now, after years of waiting, the notion that extensive and valuable community feedback has been gathered feels disingenuous at best, particularly when so many of us still have no answers, no clear direction, and no voice in the decisions that are being made about our homes, our businesses, and our futures. Let me be specific. Place plans and community input, where are they? It's stated in the RA's responses it's considering place plans for the mid-Richmond communities. What plans, who helped create them, where are they available for viewing, again by residents, business owners and ratepayers who are affected by them? Where can you see, where are they updated? There's a glaring absence of transparency here. If we're supposedly being part of the process, then we deserve to see and understand the tools being used to shape our future. Show us evidence where our submissions have been included in these place plans. No one ever comes back to us to present these plans to our community. Independent flood inquiry is a missed opportunity for action. The 2022 flood inquiry makes bold recommendations recognising floodplains as assets, but also includes embedding resilience into planning and creating climate-ready infrastructure. A best place framework, a proactive approach to risk, it says. A plan with a hierarchy of plans. And a quote within that report says, today's growth in infrastructure resilient in tomorrow's climate. A nation ready to respond and adapt to flooding and coastal change. These aims are in broad alignment with the climate change policies of the New South Wales Government, closed quote. Our feedback to this is that they are commendable words, but at a local level where is the implementation? These principles should support the rebuilding of housing and critical community infrastructure, like the Woodburn IGA and the Broadwater School, and not being delayed or blocking the rebuilding process. If this framework is truly being followed, we are not seeing it on the ground. Community feedback and not selective consultation. Council claims extensive and valuable feedback has been gathered, yet in Woodburn, Broadwater and Coraki, residents are repeatedly left out of key conversations. When questions are raised, answers are either vague or withheld entirely. There's a growing perception that the decisions are being made by council staff and RA officials behind closed doors while our elected councillors and the broader public are kept in the dark. On the 8th of April, at the councillor information session is a prime example. Was any of the information shared with the public? Were community members allowed to attend? Did our elected representatives even get meaningful answers to their questions? Or was it just another formality to tick the box? Land use and buybacks management, we still have no answers. We're still waiting for clarity on how buyback land will be managed. We're still waiting to hear whether structures can be repurposed for community use. And while council and RA staff have access to this information, the people whose lives are most affected, the applicants, the homeowners, the business owners remain shut out of the conversation. That's not recovery, that's gatekeeping. The Woodburn IGA is a case study in delay and disregard. Our community supermarket is the lifeblood of Woodburn. It's a vital community service, a hub during emergencies and an anchor for our local recovery. And yet it has been repeatedly delayed, deprioritised and disregarded by our RA. Despite commitments of support from government, nothing has moved forward in a meaningful way. We are now entering our 4th year without this essential service and no one is being held accountable. If we don't continue to ask the questions, we will be forgotten once again. You say RA and council are working together. That may be true, but are you working with us, the community you claim to be serving? Because from where we stand, it feels like we're just expected to quietly accept what we're given, to make life-altering decisions in isolation, to be excluded from these discussions about our own future. This is not acceptable for Woodburn, Broadwater, Coraki or surrounding impacted regions. It's not acceptable for any flood-affected town in the entire Northern Rivers. We're not asking for special treatment, we are asking for basic fairness, for transparency, for accountability and for action. If this means we need to take the conversation further, straight to the ministers, and that's what should be done. We need to stop sweeping our towns under the rug. And I will just add one final comment is, I know I did write to our General Manager on the 25th of March to ask if he would consider asking the New South Wales RA if they would be open to opening up that meeting to the general public in person or online. And through you, Mr Mayor, I'd like to ask what that response was for the public to hear.
You contact the RA about opening those meetings to the public?
The answer was no. They're briefings that are provided to other councils, and they're done in conference because there is confidential information that is provided in those sessions.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Yeah, just as a seconder, look, Councillor Murray's, she's put a lot into that and provided us a lot of information, okay? I think the glitz of it is that it's the RA that are holding information back from council, and council can't progress the information to the community and the groups out there waiting for that information because we're not getting it. We're not getting it in a timely fashion, or we're not getting the answers. We never got any answers the other night. We got a lot of information, but we never got any real answers. And my statement the other night that I read out behind closed doors, it was in confidential. I wish that the community could have heard that, so that they know we're trying to get this information and we're disappointed with the way they're going about it. They don't understand that we are trying our hardest, but we're not getting anywhere, and not getting anywhere fast. I think, like the Mayor said earlier in one of those statements, that the last 5 months they've started to move a bit and they've started to head our way, and it looks like they're coming, but we're not getting the answers.
I'm not going to go back there, but when you have a look how much money this council has got out of the RA, they have got a real lot of money. On some things they've been slow, but other things they've been very quick.
Can I just articulate that I'm not talking about infrastructure funding, I'm talking about specifically the failed Resilience Homes grants funding, where there's been a total of 16 house raises and retro refits approved over the Northern Rivers in 3 years, carrying a really high load of salary costs to implement that. So this is the last resort. These questions are the last resort, because I have met with Jihad Dibbs, I've met with Paul Scully, I've met with about 8 different leaders in different organisations across the New South Wales government, and we can't get straight answers. And me putting these questions on notice, they're not my questions. I'm not impacted by the flood. These are genuine questions coming from the community, and they continue to get the same treatment they get when they ring up to find out about the status of their grant application. And that is a script that's pre-written that they get every time. And this is the
Councillor, I'm
last
going to have to
resort.
pull you up. You spoke for well over 5 minutes
Thank
before,
you.
and now we're going back to a bit more time. So, is there any other councillors who'd like to speak? I need to give you right a reply, but could you be as quick as you can, please?
I've said everything, thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that motion then. All those in favour, carried. On to the next page, 20.2, Councillor Hayes' question. Could I get a mover of that, please?
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Just like to thank the General Manager for adequately answering my questions and providing the information I asked for in these questions that went before the last meeting. So I'm happy with that. I've just got a question there on 2. It says any flood mitigation measures either through the CSIRO study or Richmond Valley's future flood risk management plan will a flux assessment of the initial design to ensure there is no minimal adverse effects. So will they be combined as we move further down the track? Now we've got this committee set up. So surely the CSIRO report and what comes out of this, the flood risk management plan will line up. Is that how it's going to work? There won't be 2 different reports that were conflicting.
Oh, I certainly think that our flood.
It actually says
flood-
or. It doesn't say both. It says or.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty confident our flood risk management work will be informed by the CSIRO. I think everyone's waiting for it. Can't happen soon enough. So we'll certainly bring that into it. It's a different, it's a region catchment wide focus. So absolutely link them together. But I think it does highlight there that it's complicated because you can bring in a measure to improve the outcome for one property, but it can be a detriment to another, and that's where the whole floodplain scenario is a real challenge. So we just need to make sure we've got the right experts around the table to give us the advice to minimise improve outcomes but minimise the impact on others.
Thank you.
Councillor Murray, did you want to comment as seconder?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Any others? Councillor Hayes, will to reply? Put that motion and all those in favour carried. Page 21, page 64, sorry, item 21. I'm not going back. Is there any questions for next meeting in writing? As you was aware, you've got to a few days before the next agenda is set.
Yeah, nothing
to
received.
Submit. If you've got none now, they can still have time to put them in. We now move to item 22. I need a motion to go into closed council.
I'll move it, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Murray, seconder. Councillor Morrissey, and seconder Councillor Murray. Mr General Manager, has there been a representation in writing?
No, nothing received.
Is there any from the gallery? Council shouldn't go into closed council. Nil. I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Mr General Manager, could you read or organise one of the staff members to read resolutions 22.1 and 22.2, and I will read 22.3.
So Director Gator's going to read those out tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
In matter 22.1, tender T542425 RTC, supply and delivery stationery and auxiliary items. Council resolved that 1. Council accepts the tender from the following suppliers for T542425 RTC, supply and delivery of stationery and auxiliary items on a schedule of rates-based contract for a period of 3 years with an option of 2 one-year extensions subject to performance. Wink Australia and Office Choice. Number 2, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of council when necessary. In item 22.2, tender T422425 RTC, supply and delivery of ready-mix concrete. Council resolved that 1. Council accepts the tender from the following suppliers for T422425 RTC, supply and delivery of ready-mix concrete on a schedule of rates based for a period of 3 years with an option of 2 one-year extensions subject to performance. Boral Resources, Graham's Concrete and Wholesome. And number 2, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of council where necessary.
Thank you. And item 22.3, General Manager's Annual Performance Review 24-25. The recommendation is that Council approves, in accordance with Clause 8.3 of the Standard Contract of Employment, General Managers of Local Government of New South Wales and the guidelines for the appointment and oversight of General Managers, a discretionary increase as outlined in the report be awarded to the General Manager's total remuneration package in recognition of the results achieved for the period, the high standards set and achieved by the General Manager, and in absence of any statutory and other officers tribunal sought increased this financial year. 2, the discretionary increase to take effect from the General Manager's most recent anniversary date, being the 16th of February 2025. 3, the Mayor, General Manager and Facilitator are to develop a draft performance agreement for the coming year, taking into account suggestions submitted by councillors. The draft agreement will be provided for review and agreement by councillors. And 4, a mid-term review is to be conducted in August 2025. Councillors, and staff, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you for your attendance, and thank you to those out there who have been watching online. Everyone have a safe trip home. Thank you.